Assalamu alaikum students. Welcome again to the second session of this lecture. We can say the 8th week video. So हमने कुछ summarize करने के point of view से first lecture में कुछ चीज़ें discuss की थी. That was about जो हमने summarize की थी. That was about you can say concepts of DFD और till balancing of DFD जो हमने different concepts को discuss किया था. Different levels of DFD, 0 level, 1 level and so on और उनको हमने up to some extent डिस्कस किया था. बैलेंसिंग ऑफ DFD के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से हमने कुछ चीज़ों को देखा एंड देन लेटर ऑन हाउ टू इंटीग्रेट DFD विद ERD उसको हमने डिस्कस किया. एंड दिस वन इज अबाउट अगेन लास्ट क्लास ये सारा चीज़ें हमने डिस्कस की कि कैसे ERD के और DFD के डिफरेंट कॉन्सेप्ट्स को आप आपस में जो है वो यूज़ कर सकते हैं, इंटीग्रेट कर सकते हैं. Now, next concept that is very important whenever we are talking about ERD, that is about entity. A person, place, event, concept, or object are in the user environment. That can be anything. That can be any object, whatever, anything you want to. That can be the entity. That can be the table. That can be the relation. Anything that has some specific identity, that can be the object, and any type of object that can be the entity, relation, table, or whatever data. From data point of view, we are talking about if you want to link it with the relation or table. So entity notations, there are different types of notations for different, you can say, whatever the concepts or the symbols we have to use for EID. Entity is denoted by the rectangle shape this one is about, and in this we have to mention the name of that entity, then entity occurrence, uniquely identify object of the entity type, instance that can be the single occurrence of the entity type, and strong entity that is independent and that is not dependent on other entities just like books and course and all that. That is a strong entity. Weak entity, an entity whose existence depend on other, whose existence depend on other entities. That means you can say dependent entity जिसको हम कहते हैं वो weak entity होती है. और इनको हम कैसे इनकी क्या notations है उनको भी हम देखेंगे. Weak entity is denoted by double rectangle writing name inside it. So that can be the weak entity notation. And what should an entity be? An entity can be an object or instance in the database. It can be an object that will be composed of multiple attributes. It can be an object that we are trying to model. So that can be anything. And just like in any relation or table, what should an entity not be? A user of the database system and an output of the database system. That can be the reports. That is not entity जो हम generate करते हैं. Next one is about attributes. The number of, you can say, attributes for any entity. Attributes are the properties that can be the characteristics of any entity that is of interest of the organization for the organization. So attributes or entities और इन सब के क्या basically क्या हम symbols लेते हैं, how we have to you can say draw or how we have to find out कि क्या इनके symbols हैं और क्या इनके basic concepts हैं. So entity, this one is the rectangle shape. Attribute, आप लोगों को माशाल्लाह 8 सेमेस्टर में आइडिया है कि ये वाले होते हैं. रिलेशनशिप के लिए जनरली हम ये सिंबल यूज करते हैं. फॉर वीक एंटिटी दिस वन इज जो हम डबल रेक्टेंगल शेप यूज करते हैं. मल्टी वैल्यूड में भी हम डबल ओवल शेप यूज करते हैं. वीक रिलेशनशिप के लिए हम जनरली ये यूज करते हैं. और स्ट्रॉन्ग में हम सिंगल जो है वो लाइन ड्रॉ करते होते हैं. Okay. Now, these are the examples, just like these are the examples of attribute. This one is the student is the entity and student ID, name, age, we can say address and whatever the relationship contact, whatever the sorry information link with student. Student is the entity and whatever the information link with student, that can be the attribute of the student, like student, CGPA student, we can say contact information, phone number, each and everything, that is email address. That is about, we can say, attributes of the students, property of the student, and student is an entity that can be an object. Now, next one is about attribute domain, set of the allowable values for one or more attributes. That can be domain of name attribute will be alphabets, not the numbers. Generally, it can be in the form of alphabets. Characteristics, classification of the attributes. Generally, characteristics are the classification of the attributes. We can say that can be about classification. Attributes have following characteristics. Sorry, these are the different types or characteristics of the attributes. Further in detail in this video, we will discuss all these attributes, like required versus optional attribute. That can be the first type. Like required भी हो सकता है और optional भी हो सकता है. Which one is simple versus composite attribute? Single valued versus multi-valued attributes, stored versus derived attributes, identifier attributes. These are the different types of attributes. So first thing हमने generally entities के point of view से देखा कौन कौन से हैं. Second thing that we have discussed is about attributes, कि कौन कौन से types of attributes होते हैं उनको हमने check किया. और अब हमने attributes की different example को discuss करना है. So how we have to, like, we can say first one is required versus optional attribute. An attribute that must have value for entity or instance, that is called required. That means that is very important. For example, student must have a name, ID, name, and all that. So that is required. It's, you can say, very important and necessity or necessary information. So definitely student ID नहीं होगी, student name नहीं होगा, तो how we can find out कि student की information है. तो ये आपकी must या required information है. Whenever we are talking about optional attribute, जब हम optional attribute की बात करते हैं तो optional attribute that can be like contact number, email address, and address if you want to. Generally तो address में हम optional में sometimes नहीं लेते, but if you want to contact numbers or email address and all that, that is, you can say, CGPA. Sometimes if it is about school students information, there is no need of CGPA or marks. That can be the optional information. So attributes that can be of any type जो हम column की form में mention करते हैं whenever we want to make the table. So attributes ये वाले आपके optional होते हैं. So these are the examples जो हमने discuss कर ली. Next one is about second type of attribute, simple versus composite attribute. Now what will be the simple and what will be the composite attribute? Now, simple attribute generally कौन से होते हैं? These are the simple attribute, and this one is about composite attribute. How these are the simple and how that is composite attribute? Composite attribute क्या होता है? Attribute composed of multiple components are attributes, that is known as composite attribute. Just like this address, this one is the example. Address is the composite attribute, like street address, city, state, and postal code, that is linked with or that is derived from this specific attribute. So that is the reason it's multi-valued attribute. It's about address. And this one is about simple attribute जो independent जिनकी existence है, जो इंडिपेंडेंटली एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, पोस्टल कोड, स्टेट, सिटी, स्ट्रीट, एड्रेस एंड ऑल दैट, ये आपका सिंपल एट्रीब्यूट्स होते हैं. सो दिस वन इज द डिफरेंस ऑफ सिंपल एंड कंपोजिट एट्रीब्यूट. जो अकॉर्डिंगली आपने क्या करना है जब आप अपना डेटाबेस बनाएंगे. बेसिकली पर्पस क्या है सीआईडी का? पर्पस ये है कि जब आप अपना डेटाबेस बनाएंगे तो उसमें डेफिनेटली यू हैव टू गो फॉर ईच एंड एवरी कॉन्सेप्ट. आप सारे रूल्स को, सारे कॉन्सेप्ट्स को इम्प्लीमेंट करेंगे. लाइक यू हैव टू गो फॉर, आप एट्रीब्यूट्स फाइंड आउट करेंगे, आप टेबल्स बनाएंगे, उसमें कीज, एसोसिएशंस, रिलेशंस फाइंड आउट करेंगे. सो फॉर दैट रीजन ये सारे आपने रूल्स अपने ईआईडी जो अपने प्रोजेक्ट की बनाएंगे उसके ऊपर आपने इम्प्लीमेंट करने हैं. So this one is about, we can say, address the different types of and so on. So this is the different simple and composite attribute. Now next one is about single valued and multiple valued attribute. Now what is single valued and multi-valued attribute? With the example we have to see right now. Single value for occurrence of entity is referred as single value. जब आपका एक attribute एक value hold करता है तो attribute that hold multiple values for each occurrence of entity is referred as multi-valued attribute. Just like in this example, we can say these are single valued, like employee ID, employee name, address, and all that. That is single valued. But whenever we are talking about skills, so there are number of types of skills a person or employee has. So that can be the multi-valued attribute, like management skills, we can say, or HR skills, or that can be, you can say, marketing skills, or you can say IT skills, or professional individuals के point of view से technical skills. So there are number of types of skills regarding one employee. So एक employee के बहुत सारी types के, बहुत ज़्यादा types के skills हो सकते हैं. So we can say it's about multi-valued attributes. So these are the we can say other types of attribute. Now this one is about stored versus derived attributes. Now stored attribute कौन से होते हैं और derived attributes कौन से होते हैं? Right now we have to discuss attribute that represent a value that is derivable from the value of the related attribute or set of attribute. Not necessarily the same entity is referred as a derived attribute. एक एट्रीब्यूट जो आपका ड्राइव कर रहा होता है रिलेटेड एट्रीब्यूट से, तो उसको हम कहते हैं दैट इज अबाउट डिराइव्ड एट्रीब्यूट। जो हम एक रिलेटेड एट्रीब्यूट से हम उसको उस अनदर एट्रीब्यूट को डिराइव करते हैं। इन द अबव एग्जांपल जस्ट लाइक ईयर एम्प्लॉयड, दिस वन इज अबाउट वी कैन से दिस वन इज डिराइव्ड फ्रॉम द डेट एम्प्लॉयड। जब एक इंडिविजुअल या एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में एम्प्लॉय ज्वाइन करता है एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को, डेफिनेटली आप डेट एम्प्लॉयड का एक कॉलम बना देते हैं, एक एट्रीब्यूट डिफाइन करते हैं। तो उसी से वी कैन फाइंड आउट कि कितना टाइम हो चुका है, कि एक्सपीरियंस या ईयर्स एम्प्लॉयड एक इंडिविजुअल के फाइंड आउट करने होते हैं। तो दिस कॉलम इज बेसिकली डिपेंडेंट ऑन डेट एम्प्लॉयड। So this is known as, we can say, derived attribute from this attribute. So and the remaining attribute are the stored attribute जो अपनी जगह पे as it is अपनी existence और अपनी place पे होते हैं with their specific existence and specifications। तो वो आपके stored attributes होते हैं, और जो इन stored attributes से derive किए जाएं, that can be the derived attribute। just like year employed, that means आपका joining time से लेके till now, अगर हम suppose आप 2005 में ज्वाइन किया आपने, और till now if you want to calculate your year number of years employed in that organization, so we can find out कि आपने 2005 से 2020 तक, it's about 15 years you have served for that organization। So that is about, we can say, derived attribute। Now, next one is another very important type of, we can say, identifiers as attribute. An attribute are combination of attribute that uniquely identify individual instance of an entity type is referred as identifier। We can say it's linked with the identity. When we are talking about uniqueness or individual instance of the entity, employee identity is an identifier due to having the ability to uniquely identifying the individual instance। Name cannot be an identifier because there is a chance of two employees with the same name। So this is very important. So that is known as identifier। Identifier up to some extent linked with the primary key, because primary key must be unique at each and every you can say source point of view, or at any cost, sorry, your primary key must be unique key, जिसको हम कहते होते हैं, that can be the identifier। So these are the different types of attributes that we have discussed, students। And next one is about different types of keys। Generally हम इनको देख लेते हैं, but later on we will discuss it with the next session में। हम इस वीडियो के साथ जो next हमारा clip होगा उसमें normalization के साथ up to some extent again class, I just want to tell you कि मैं एक overview दे रही हूँ आपको different चीज़ों की point of view से, बहुत डिटेल और बहुत ज़्यादा example के साथ। if you want to go onward, तो ये हमारे 3 to 4 5 lectures चाहिए होते हैं, because right now you are in 8th semester, there is no need of कि आप इतनी डिटेल में ये सारी चीज़ों को देखो। So माशाल्लाह आप काफ़ी चीज़ों को जानते हैं, but because of that requirement we have to fulfill all these requirements and we have to know the basic concepts। So the different types of keys, like candidate key, minimum set of attributes uniquely identify each occurrence of an entity। Primary key, you know very well, that is about unique identification or occurrence of in any entity। And composite key, a primary key consists of two or more attributes, that can be the composite key। So foreign key, associate key, candidate key, primary and composite key with relation to the tables and all that would definitely we will discuss in the next lecture class। And thank you so much for this session। Next lecture हम next clip में discuss करेंगे। Thank you।